Good afternoon. I am Robert Sumwalt, S-U-M-W-A-L-T, and I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. Mr. Joe Sedor, S-E-D-O-R. Joe is the investigator in charge for this accident, and we are here today to update you on what we've been doing. As we have indicated, our on-scene activities are wrapping up here in Yuma, and we plan for this to be our final on-scene press briefing from Yuma. Let me begin by providing an update into today's investigative activities. Our maintenance record group has been in Dallas, Texas since Saturday, scouring the maintenance records of the accident aircraft. And what we can tell you is that all required aircraft inspections were up to date and no discrepancies were found. There were no outstanding maintenance items at the time of the accident. All airworthiness directives were complied with and were up to date. And the heavy maintenance check that was completed in March of 2010, that was conducted at the headquarters of Southwest Airlines at Dallas, Texas. The records examination is still ongoing, and the records group anticipates wrapping up their examination of these records tomorrow. Today, the structures group finalized its field notes, which means that all on-scene documentation and evidence related to the accident has been put into a report, and that their on-scene activities have now concluded. Engineers from Boeing are conducting non-destructive testing, or NDT, of both lap joints on the accident aircraft, and they're using the same inspection techniques that will be specified in Boeing's upcoming service bulletin. And the type of inspection that they're using, the type of inspection technique that they're using is dual frequency eddy current is the name of it. Dual frequency eddy current, EDDY current. Finally today, the portion of the aircraft fuselage that many of you saw last night, that is en route to Washington. It's being accompanied back to Washington with one of our investigators, and the investigators will begin their in-depth analysis in the laboratory, in the NTSB's materials laboratory, beginning Wednesday morning. The flight crew statements are being obtained today, and we are told that those statements are very detailed written statements. I think it's important to remember that just because we're concluding the on-scene portion of the investigation, that by no means should imply that the investigation itself is wrapping up. In fact, I look at this as just the very beginning of the investigation. There's a long way to go, a lot to be done. We will continue gathering facts and evaluating all data related to this accident. I also want to emphasize that the NTSB can issue recommendations at any point in the investigation. If we find issues that need immediate attention, we will issue urgent safety recommendations. So that's about it. Before I conclude, I will say that we have, and you'll have plenty of time to shoot this, back on the back on that TV monitor, there's a picture of the eddy current inspection, so you can get a picture of what that device looks like. It's just a small probe that goes across the skin of the aircraft, and we can talk about that as we go along. But that picture will be up there for you to be able to take pictures of. Be glad to open it up if any of you have any questions.
Have any more cracks been found on the plane in question?
I haven't. No.
Did you guys find additional ones after?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. That yeah, have there been any cracks that are found on the accident airplane? Yesterday we did report that we have found additional cracks on the accident airplane, not in the in addition to the location that separated. So we have found additional cracks along the lap joint of the accident airplane, but no more have been found today.
Where were those additional ones found? Were
They were on the okay, so along the same lap joint that failed, and
on both sides of the lap joint, we removed some of the interior and then looked at additional portion of the lap joint, both on the left and right side. And so we didn't look at the entire lap joints from the interior, but the testing going on today will look at the entire lap joint on both sides using the NDT testing.
Thank you. Next question.
The lap joints have been an issue on the 737 and other Boeing planes for years. Why were these ones not being inspected?
Well, why were these particular lap joints not being inspected? And in the industry, the manufacturer, the FAA, the industry have not believed that this particular lap joint on this model airplane was one that warranted attention on aircraft that only had this amount of takeoffs and landings on it. So it was not believed that this was an area that could fail until we see it now. So it was not an area that was receiving that was believed could fail. Stu?
Now that this on-scene investigation is just wrapping up, what happens to the plane, and if more tests are going to be done on the plane, what happens next?
Joe, I'm going to turn it over to Joe Sedor and come
Right now, we've completed our examination of the airplane, so at this point in time, I've released the aircraft to Southwest, and they will work with Boeing and the FAA to return the aircraft to service.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Do we have any announcements on airworthy directives or anything like that?
Well, as we announced yesterday, Boeing is working on a service bulletin that we expect to be out in the next few days. That's what Boeing is doing. And as far as the FAA's actions, that will be up to the FAA to determine whether to make it a requirement through an airworthiness directive or not. So that will be up to the FAA. If we do not believe that things are moving quick enough, then we certainly have the ability to step in and make recommendations if we feel that things are not moving as they should. Lisa, I think you had a question in the back.
Talking about the frequency eddy current, is that something that they're going to be doing on planes from now on? Is it something you might be recommending?
Well, eddy current inspections have been used on airplanes for a long time, for over 25 years now. So the idea of using that is not new. What is going to be new is that those inspections will need to be done in this particular area of the airplane. So we anticipate, and again, it is Boeing that is making the service bulletin, is drafting the service bulletin, but we anticipate that it will come out and specify that those eddy current inspections will need to be done on both lap joints running through the crown of the aircraft.
What's the eddy current do? Forgive my ignorance.
No, it's not ignorance at all. The question was asked to me last night, and I'm glad you've asked. It's basically a process that is using electrical signals, a high frequency and a low frequency signal, and it is sending it down into the skin of the aircraft and comparing. And if it should get a very low delta between those values, it should not be a huge difference between the high frequency and the low frequency values. If it does get a large difference, that's detecting that there's some sort of a crack in the material. Any other questions?
And is this being done on all these aircraft in question right now?
Okay, the question. Okay, let me clarify your question. Is what being done on all aircraft?
The eddy scan.
On this particular. Okay. I want to make sure I've got your question just right. Is the eddy current inspection being done on all airplanes? I would say that eddy current inspections are being done on all airplanes and have been done on all airplanes at some point for the last several years. What is different, what will be different now as a result of the service bulletin that Boeing is coming out with, is that now they will be doing the eddy current inspection on these particular lap joints. Before this accident, it was not believed that the eddy current inspections needed to be done in this section of the airplane.
Okay, so those sorts of scans have been done for a long time in aircraft, but this particular part of the aircraft, that is new. That's a new scan that's going to be done on all these aircraft.
At certain cycle levels. Yes.
Yes.
At
So
a certain age of the aircraft, yes.
Okay, so the older ones are...
it's airplanes that are in this design. The question is, at what intervals will these eddy current inspections be required? We don't know what that interval will be. However, Boeing will be specifying that. And will it be on all airplanes? It's my understanding that the service bulletin addressing that will be coming out from Boeing will be addressing Boeing 737-300s, 400s, and 500s. Okay, one or two more questions, no more than two questions. One question, right here.
You said that the investigation is just beginning. Is there a point where you're hoping by such and such a date the final result of the investigation?
The question essentially is how long will the investigation last? And this is going to be a very detailed investigation, as all of ours are. This will be a very technically advanced investigation with material science. So I would suspect that this investigation, by the time it goes, investigators complete it, they write the report, they bring it before the board. I would suspect it would take about a year. Might take a few months less or a few months longer, but generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, the NTSB, we're putting reports out in about a year. One last question. Yes, ma'am.
How confident are you in the fleet of planes now that are flying?
How confident am I in the fleet of planes flying right now? We have no reason to believe that there are significant difficulties or deficiencies in the fleet of airplanes flying. We will be looking at to see if this issue does relate to other airplanes in the fleet, but right now we feel that that through issuing this service bulletin, that will take care of those airplanes that need attention. But for the remaining fleet, I don't believe that there are structural deficiencies. So I want to thank you all for, again, thank you for everything. You're welcome to stick around and take photographs of this eddy current inspection. This was taken this morning on a test piece that they used to actually calibrate the instrument, and that's what that is. So thank you very much. Thanks again.